Well, good morning, everyone. Today is July 31st, and we have this wonderful new moon today, new beginnings, and we're really excited today to share with you the self-discovery tools that we have, and this will be segment 3, okay? Today, what it's about is if you are a parent or if you're a grandparent and you want to find out what the dynamics of the relationship between you and your daughter or son or a friend or a grandparent. And it's very prevalent nowadays that grandparents, and it has been in the past in ancient cultures, take on a big role as an elder in a grandchild's life. And because of the high divorce rates and everything, that community is there for them. And so today, Michael is going to put up a chart, and he can explain who the chart is and what is it about and how this can affect you. So I would say at the end, I'll tell you, if you have somebody you love, a child that you're having not just difficulties with, but how can I assist them? Or if you have a grandchild that you want to know what part you play in their life, this would be a great tool. So Michael, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, this would be another one of the reports that we offer for, like Sandra's just explained, right? And so this is an awesome tool to find, I mean, any kind of connection other than a lover's connection, right? That with any individual in your life, and so many, different people come across our path, some more important than others. But if you really want to get to know your place and their place in each other's lives, this report is a friends and family report. So, as the title indicates, anyone outside of being a lover. And so I'll bring it up and I'll show you today. What I'm going to do is, and it's very interesting for me because it's the first time I've done it, with my granddaughter, all right? One of my granddaughters, and her name is Sophie. And so I generated the report on the computer program. So I'll share it with you now, and we'll just briefly run through it, and you'll be able to see, the connection. You apply that to yourself, right, to whatever those people are in your own life. So I will share my screen right now. Okay, so it's this one. Now, do you see that one, Sandra?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, the love cards, but under the title here, Friends and Family Relationship. So for Sophie, my granddaughter, and Michael, the grandfather, all right? And so again, if you've seen the first two segments of our reports, you'll understand this is detailed information that I would highly recommend you read, okay? And so it's pretty generic on each of the reports. These are the significators and connections, all right, between my granddaughter and myself, all right? You can see me born here in 54, her birth date in 2012, okay? So there are 5 cards that will interact with each other, again, based on ancient wisdom, astrology. It's almost eerie how accurate it is. And so Sandra and I had a chance to go over this a little bit before we started this recording, right? And these are the top 10 connections. As in with the Lover's Report, Lover's Profile, it's the 10 most significant connections, all right? With the first connection being most powerful and then winding its way down, slightly less powerful till we get to the 10th one, all right? And so here, I'm going to get an insight as to what Sophie means to me in my life and what I'm going to mean in her life, all right? She's only like 7 now, right? So I have hopefully, divine willing, I have many more years to implement what I'm going to learn here and understand that we each have a significant role to play in each other's life, right? So the first one here is as a karma cousin, all right? And I'll just briefly go through these, which is the strongest connection that we have, slightly less, in strength, like I said, as we go down, is a cosmic lesson card, which is essentially, as it says, a lesson And it's like Saturn, which Saturn, Sandra sort of explained to you in the last report about Saturn. Well, a cosmic lesson card sort of takes Saturn on steroids, all right? So it is even stronger lessons. Then we go through Pluto. And as, again, Sandra's explained, this is a transformational card, okay? And so now it's starting to become a little bit apparent to me as I look briefly through all these. I have 5 Saturn or cosmic lesson cards here, or significators, which means somehow in some way there's a lot of lesson to be learned between the two of us, and then transformation with the Pluto. And I think most of it is from me to my granddaughter. So there's a lot of things that hopefully I'm going to be able to teach her, you know, from the wisdom that I've gained over my lifetime, and she's very young. And so then we have these 3 little Venus indicators in here, which to me is a good thing, because it means that we're going to be very important in each other's life in a personal relationship way, where, you know, father-granddaughter kind of thing, right? So she's probably going to be willing to listen to me a little bit and not find me too overbearing because of those 3 Venus connections. So I'm pretty happy to see those there, right? If they were like 3 Mars connections, we probably would struggle with this, right? With these lessons. And so that's what I get out of this right off the hop. And so this one won't be quite as long of a report, I don't think, unless I hand some things over to Sandra. But because we've gone through the last report, the lover's profile, it's very, very much based on the same principles, right? And so if you've watched that one, this one will make a lot more sense to you. Now, this is about Sophie's birth card. And again, it will talk. This is personal growth, personal information that she will, or I will, both of us together, get a better understanding of who Sophie is as an individual. And it's uncanny how accurate these are. And again, I've talked to you about a birth card and a planetary ruling card, all right? So,
Michael, can I just,
sure.
I think it's really important. I just want to look at Sophie's here again, and I can see why there is so much learning here from you, okay? Because here it says she's really got to be responsible for her actions, and it can lead her down escapism and a time lost in fantasy. And so your Saturn connections keep you really grounded in here, because she is very powerful, and it's the card of fate, okay? And so she will either align with a higher purpose, okay, or she can go somewhere else. So I think this is really perfect. And they can also be very stubborn, which I am an 8 of spades, so I know that, okay? So hers is about fulfillment, purpose, and friends, okay? And so for me, this says a lot, just because of my knowing with you and her, that because you needed to have those 4 Saturn cards to be able to hit her, because she is a Capricorn too. And you will keep her grounded in reality instead of running off, as it says here, into the Neptunian stuff. This is a powerful destiny line. Okay, go ahead.
So you can see the value of the information contained in here, and you can implement this over a lifetime. Once you have this report, you get to reread it. You know, granddaughter's coming to visit, or that person's coming to visit, reread it. You know, reinforce those connections, understand what you're dealing with, gives you an insight into who they are, gives me an insight as how I can react to that, and understand a little bit about, we'll get past this little blip because this connection's here, and it tells us clearly we might expect that, right?
Do you know what else is interesting? Is because now that you have this report, Michael, Sophie's birthday is going to be coming up in January, and you as the elder can have her monthly or her yearly report, and you can watch what she's going through as she is growing in consciousness and the things that she's learning for that year. I just thought about that.
Okay. And it's uncanny how accurate it is between her birth and her ruling card. It's just uncanny how, you know, no matter what age you're at, these situations are arising in your life. It's you know, it's really amazing, right? And so we're still talking about, now we get into a ruling card here, right? Planetary ruling card. Again, it gives me more information about Sophie. Now, from a grandparent, that's pretty cool to know, an insight into your grandchild. And because we're not all the same, let's face it, no two individuals are the same. And in an exact situation, my grandson, who's 2 years younger, will react much differently than Sophie, right? Because, and this will tell me why. This gives me a real insight. Okay, so we go through her two cards.
One of the things I want to say there is, if you just go back, he may find more happiness in having multiple partners, which is another expression of the Three of Hearts. So the more that she has a sound sense of self and has that connection with the divine, she's not going to complicate her life with that type of thing, Michael.
And so you see, by knowing that Three of Hearts, and that's what that's about. It's like, we know the two hearts. If it was a Two of Hearts, that means two hearts.
Yeah.
Right? Connection with another, significant other. The Three of Hearts, well, okay, that's not two anymore. Now there's someone else involved, and that might last for a little bit, and then there's somebody else, and that's changed for, you know what I mean? There's a lot of change going on, and she's prone to having that happen in her life. And so you're right. As a grandparent, knowing that, I can give certain kinds of guidance to help the pitfalls that arise from having too many different people, you know, like you know what I mean, lovers, or in the future, or whatever. That kind of, you're right, complicates your life.
Yeah, because what happens, your divine force and your chi and your focus is taken off. If you're always like this, you're never being able to create the life that's there for you to fulfill your destiny.
Yeah, it's a bit of chaos, right? It's very chaotic, and that's where your focus stays. You're dead right. So now to know that about my granddaughter is, I don't know, it's invaluable. So okay. We go through my cards here, and it tells you my birth card, a lot about who I am and how I see the world, which isn't going to be the same way Sandra does. Sandra's a very different individual than I am, and I can understand that based on the same sorts of information on her cards, both birth and planetary, right?
And so it's interesting because one of your things is you find your greatest fulfillment on a spiritual path, or by bringing the higher energies to their work in their lives. And so because you've traveled such a physical thing, and the last few years you've really integrated the spirituality, creates another wholeness within you, Michael, which is interesting.
We see, and as I'm discovering this, because I never understood that before, I got these, you know, I read the Jack of Hearts, and of course it's my birth card, so I tried to find all the information on it possible. But I mean, you know, like, to understand that it carries a Christ spirit, and that I can help, you know, in some way uplift others by my presence in a positive way, is very fulfilling for me, and I'm aware of it now, right? So I try and make that happen in my interaction with others, sometimes on a conscious level, just because I think it's, you know, I would like to get anyone else that came into my life, I would like to get the positive, higher vibration of that individual, you know, and be able to enjoy that. And so I try and stay on the higher side of the Jack as best I can. And I know,
but here it also says, and this is the Eight of Spades coming in with the transformation, something you have to be careful of is not to be a martyr.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, as a Jack of Hearts, I can be that for sure, because I'm constantly trying to help those younger than me in ways that are, you know, I mean, if you give too much of that, of course, you can deplete yourself, and I have to be careful of that for sure.
Yeah.
But
and
again,
it's just,
great information.
Reality.
Yeah, great information. So I move through, and then I have a planetary ruling card, which again, as I've explained in the past, acts in conjunction with your birth card. And there are times I might find myself definitely operating under the influence of my ruling card, more so than even my birth card, right? Although both stay with you your entire life. But it sort of rounds out the picture a little bit, right, of who I am. And this is the, you know, the father card. It's so, I mean, I already will be inclined towards helping Sophie because of this card. this card, and the Jack of Hearts. I'm pulled in that direction. So the more information I can sort out about Sophie and how she sees the world, obviously the easier I'm going to be able to influence in a positive way, right? And so the first connection here is she's a karmic cousin to me, all right? So that's actually her to me, which means that I'm getting a certain amount of good energy from Sophie whenever she's around me. There's something about her that I really feel good about, right? And obviously love my granddaughter. So, but I mean, it explains it in a way that I can make sense of it because I still live with this intellect and so on, right? And it helps me to have a better understanding and insight into how Sophie affects me, because primarily this report I'm finding is about me affecting her, right? So we go through the first one where I get really good positive energy from Sophie just because she's around. And we go through, it's pretty detailed, and it tells me here the affirmation. You can see that okay, this is, I understand what Sophie means in my life. She understands what I mean in her life. Then I go through the second connection, and this is where we start to see a little bit about the lessons that I'm going to somehow hopefully help her with, divine willing again, right?
Wow, this is interesting because we just talked about the Three of Hearts. And so it is a Jack of Hearts to Saturn.
Yeah, this is the Saturn on steroids, right? This is for sure the cosmic lesson card. So as I read through this, and again, it's certainly individual to each different report. This just happens to be my connection to my granddaughter, but you can expect something, that's completely personalized to you. And so I won't go through reading it all, but it's very, very, like I said, I just can't overestimate how important and valuable it is, right? So it goes through the second connection, again, ending with affirmations, right? And now we get into something interesting here. The third connection is a Pluto connection, but it suggests here that Sophie and I have had a past life together, okay? And so that spiritual spread means that her and I have come back into this life again, probably with some unfinished business, right? And I'm going to help with the transformation process here, perhaps with each other, right? But the influence seems to be a little bit stronger, for me to Sophie, right? So again,
this is interesting. So if you look at it, it's not her Six of Spades. Again, it's that Three of Hearts.
Yeah, somehow the heart connection is very connected here, right? And so, if I go briefly again, spend a minute here just to kind of remind, the audience that heart cards, any heart suit is about people, okay? It's about the heart, right? And we are essentially the kids on the block, like we just eternal youthful people. And so my young heart card is talking to her heart card, right? Right now, this is the connection that we're having. And then as we go through the clubs, they become the students of the deck of cards. Let's just look at this as a deck of cards. As we pass into the clubs, they become the students. They would be the high school and the university and sort of the teenager to young adults of the deck. They're always about learning, right? And then we go through to the diamonds. They're the adults of the deck, and they're about the values we place on the society we live in, about any kind of values, not just money, but any value that we would have. And then, of course, we go to the spade, which they're the wise old souls. So we get the adults and we move to the sort of the wise old souls, the elders, right? They're here for something, with something to teach us, right? And so right now, my heart is talking to Sophie's heart connection, right?
Except the interesting thing here, just go back up again, Michael. Right. This is where it's a heavy duty one. Because this is a Pluto connection, and you heart people are going to have a hard time with the Pluto, because Pluto is really kind of like your spadey thing. We don't care. But it says right here, you may challenge Sophie at times, making her feel confronted and threatened. That could be not a good feeling for you, but that's because you see something that she's not aware of. And so you're trying to help her with her transformation. You're not trying to be mean. So it's to have that strength of purpose to say, Sophie girl, we really have to look at this. I'm not here to be hurtful, but this is part of your transformation.
Well, if I'm to interpret this, Sandra, I'm going to say that I'm speaking to her Three of Hearts, and most likely it will be about relationships or
Yes.
more than one relationship. And so I think in this instance, yeah, I'm going to say, Sophie, is that a good thing for you? Does that fit in enhancing your life at the moment? Are you thinking sort of, like in the lower frequencies where that's going to create chaos in your life? Let's try and look at this in a different way. And I might challenge her on that, right? Because
And I got a hit on that, Michael. I just got a real hit. It was like, Sophie is deemed, because of being of spade, with her wisdom, to create something in her life. That Three of Hearts is like, I want to be a mummy. No, Sophie. Sophie, we need you to really work on yourself. And because this Three of Hearts came up twice, that's a big thing, Michael. So it's about teaching her to develop her own relationship with herself.
you can see that that's how her life will be, or my place in her life. The first two, these connections are pretty strong with the heart connection, right? So a lot of about people, and like you said, perhaps family, that kind of thing. So of course, my interests will always be aligned with the best interests for my granddaughter. So I will challenge her, but she'll always know it's because I come from a place, the right place in my heart. I want what's best for her, and I care about her, right?
Yeah, that's called sometimes the tough love.
Okay, so now I'm going to go through.
Holy shit, okay. Again, the Three of Hearts, the third connection, and the fourth connection, nothing to do with her spade.
So really, I'm in her life. You can see pretty clearly that I've come back into this life with her to help her with find her way through the heart part of our life, right? We all have different parts in our life. We have the learning, we have the value, we have the wisdom, but I'm here to help her with the heart part of her life, right? And so you can see it goes from, it's always the three connections. So that's going to be a really significant part of Sophie's life. And I have to be really aware of that, right? And so I'm going to actually give this report to her mother so that her mother will understand better about my connection in her in her daughter's life, right?
Perfect.
And so we'll go through now to the fifth connection. And you see, Sandra, it stays the same thing. I never noticed that before until you brought it up. It's again, the heart to heart. So my connection definitely is helping her past the crazy, chaotic relationships she's prone to have. Okay? Isn't that something, right? Yeah. And it's a lot of it here is going to be in the real life. Like you've seen the spiritual connection that I had, but most of these so far have been about what's going to happen in the mundane life or the real world for her, right? And so this is really interesting for me. It's really enlightened me. I had no idea, right?
Well, it's going to be, I knew this, but I think it's really interesting when you read it. And again, here, your fifth is that, Michael, because you love so much and you come with the Jack of Hearts. And in order not to we're not talking about saving her. We're talking about raising her frequency and her consciousness about, I just need to be with people and I need to have love and I need to do this. It's about, Sophie, loving yourself and creating a world for yourself so that you can have a good life. This is phenomenal.
But you see, Sandra, I never really realized that until I've gone through that with you here. The role that I will play in her life, and it's almost always me to her, right? So I'm really here to help her with this part of her life in a way that maybe nobody else can, right?
No, and
it's really important to her that I do, and it's important to me to see that this is my role in her life, right?
Right, and yeah, and the interesting thing, you always have a hard time because I'm a spade, so it's a tough love. This is what it is. Well, the interesting thing with you and Sophie is you now take on the Saturn, the tough love, to be able to truly help her on her passage of ascension, fulfillment, and getting some clarity and raising her frequency. So this
Well,
for you.
I think for me, though, Sandra, I'm going to be a little gentler than the spade because I am the heart. But I understand what you're saying. It's no less important, right?
Guess what? Let's see what this is like. You can talk to me in about 5 years.
Okay.
Saturn is ruled by Capricorn, and Saturn is real. It's real world stuff. So it's going to be interesting how she'll push your buttons at times for you to be able to have to say, okay, now we need to sit down, Sophie.
Oh, for sure. I can be firm. I mean, I was a father, right? I can be the big dog when I have to be, right? I certainly can be, but because she's my granddaughter, I hope that I don't have to do that. But I can see the importance of not letting things go, not letting things slide for her, right?
You know what, Michael, she's 7. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you something. This came to me from spiritual. A message is I want you to write this down, open a file for Sophie and put this day, July 31st, this new moon, we've got the gateway, whatever. And so what I want you to do is watch her from 7. 7 is a crucial year. The next one is 12, the wounded healer. So I want you to watch her over a 5-year period of time, and maybe once or twice a year write down, say, this is what happened with her. And then you can actually talk about the moving experience of frequency and how you assist and that type of thing. I think it would be excellent. It would be a really good thing for you and for her. And as she gets older, you can say, Sophie, wow, like from 7 to 12, this is how you and Grandpa played through life. Because then you're teaching her that she's a 6 of spades. She can be a teacher for somebody too. This is really important.
Okay, I'm going to move through to the 6th connection. Let's see what that one's. The 6th. Are you kidding me?
I told you, everyone. I've said this about Sophie the whole time. I've seen through that young girl's soul.
Like, my goodness, Sandra, this is like,
this is
just slapping me right in the face. Like you can't ignore this, right?
You can't. And the bottom line is, this is your tipping point, because you're the one with the wisdom and the Saturn to say so, because Sophie can be, as a Capricorn and as that 6 of spades, I'm going to do it. Well, sweetheart, again, no, but if she has to do it either down or up, and we have hills and valleys. But with the consciousness right now, everybody is being demanded to wake up. I don't care if you're 3, 10, or 70. You will suffer the consequences, and the karma will be instant. What's the next one?
Oh, here we go. Finally, I'm going to teach her something, and she's going to learn.
Yeah, but you are going to. That's your 10 of clubs.
Yeah, but she's willing to learn here. It looks like the 10 of clubs is going to be, okay, like this is a lesson I'm going to learn, right? And the other one she's going to feel. She's just going to feel it with her heart and her soul, right? And so this is, but I mean, it's the 7th connection out of 10. Like the first 6, I mean, holy dynamite. Right?
Could be a bit of a battle.
Like I said, it's a good thing we got those Venus connections in there, because she'll love me and she'll go, okay, Grandpa, right? Yeah. She'll put up with me, right?
Well, sometimes she will.
Well, I mean, if they were Mars connections, I'm not sure what would happen. See, here we go, an 8th connection. So she's loved me from a past life, where we've had a connection where we were Venus to each other, right? So we've had a really strong bond in some capacity from another lifetime, right? And so now we start to get into perhaps a little bit of learning, right?
Well, because it says you went through many challenges in past lives. So yeah, you can come into this with friendship and patience, but with perseverance.
Yeah. So this is, can you see the value in this, Sandra? I mean, to know from the time your grandchild is born, or even if there's other people in your life, a new person comes in and you want to introduce them into the circle or keep them closer to you, to know this kinds of stuff, right? It's like, I don't know any other way to do it, right? So we go beyond this one to the 9th connection. And here we are, the 9th connection now is still another Venus connection. So to me, that's awesome, right? Sophie, the 9 of spades tells me that she's going to have some new beginnings and endings in her life. Endings, new beginnings, sort of throughout the course of her lifetime. And she may need me there to say, it's okay, honey, it's okay. Let's look at this. It's really not an ending. That thing didn't die in your life. This is just giving you a chance for a new beginning. And you can speak to those new beginnings a bit, right?
Yeah, that's all it is new beginnings. But you have to remember, Michael, this is your 9th connection. And I know you're all about love and it's going to be great and whatever. You've got a big journey with her, with Saturn. And guess what? I love Saturn. Most people are afraid of it, but Saturn is when you truly manifest. Always remember this. Saturn is the manifestation. Jupiter is the idea. There is no manifestation in this dimension unless you have Saturn, and that's your base chakra. And that's getting in touch with who you are so you can rise up to connect with spirit. This is a beautiful chart, a beautiful chart. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go down to the 10th, the final connection here,
Yeah.
and we're coming towards the end. And so again, it's the 9 again. So I'm talking something about endings and beginnings in Sophie's life here are going to require, I guess, me to sort of be there to help walk her through some of these. 9s can be disappointing, right? The endings, but we all know, or she should know, that just makes room for new beginnings, for growth, and so on. And you can see it's a Saturn connection again, right? And this one comes from the spiritual spread. So, the young woman and I have really had some connections in the past and apparently throughout this lifetime as well. So this is really, really awesome for me to see this. I mean, wow. I mean, I don't know. Everybody needs a report like this because we all have really important people in our life, right? Whomever they might be.
And the bottom line is a lot of times it's like, and I would have to say that what I'm going to do is I'll go and look at more of mine, but any relationship I've had, wherever, as a teacher, as a parent, as a grandparent, I've just brought that 8 of spades. It's not about me. It's about what I can see, and because I can see through the soul. And that transformation is tough work, okay? And so if I look at my 3 children, and if I look at my 5 grandchildren and not a great-grandchildren, they would have to say, when GS is coming, watch out, okay? Because it's about truth. It's not coddling. I'm not going to say what you're doing is right. It's just like, I'm going to say what I see if you want the truth. But I've reached a part of my life where it's like, if they're not prepared to listen to the truth, why would I waste my energy? Okay, because it's energy when I share my energy. And so if there's resistance, I'm into the negativity. And I don't want to be. So sometimes you just have to push them away. And I've had to do that. Sometimes I haven't had connection. I just had connection with a grandson I hadn't been connected with for 5 or 6 years. Whose choice was it? Mine. What happened is he went on his soul journey. And that's what a lot of the Aboriginals do. It's your hero's journey. They take that walk alone. I told you that little guy in Australia that had to go off on his own. And we say, oh my God, they're young. No, 7, 8 years old, they're doing their own journey. Let them do their journey. Trust in what the divine does. Okay. And
well, you can see through this report, though, Sandra, that now that I have this report, it's pretty obvious that I need to stay in her life in this capacity. Whether or not she resists it, it's really important for her and for me that I do, right? And so there might be a little bit of friction there, but I think I got to stick this one out.
Oh, you have to. And the whole thing is, Michael, for you, it's about understanding tough love. Yes, there's Venus. Thank God there's Venus. It wouldn't matter if there was Venus with me. It's like, I know that this is my job. This is your job. This is one of your missions, is to help her understand. She doesn't need a lot of people. She doesn't need a baby. She doesn't need a man. She doesn't need this. Sophie is Sophie. She comes with a lot of wisdom. It's not about dressing up and looking sexy and trying to find a partner. It's about the intelligence she has and what her mission is here. Okay.
Yeah, she has a real goal, and she has had since the time she could basically speak.
But is it her goal or somebody?
Oh, it's hers. It's hers. It's guaranteed. This one came from her, right? And so if I can sort of help with the guidance so she can realize her dream, as opposed to the chaotic, having the family out of wedlock or multiple partners, or, like she doesn't need to spend her energy there. She needs to spend it, realizing her dream, her goal.
Exactly. So help her focus and do and that's what Saturn does. Saturn says, you are not getting this. So somebody whines to me. There was just a thing the other day. It's like, oh my God, I can't get a job and I got to go to school. Shut up. Go to school. If you have to work 3 jobs to take care of yourself, do. Because this is the learning right now with Aquarian. If it's gonna be, it's up to me. No parasitic relationships. Any parasitic relationships, and there is hell to pay.
Well, you know what? That's a whole nother, we're going to do a podcast on that, parasitic relationships, right? But I think we went through this one pretty clearly. And I mean, I think anybody that stayed with us this long is going to realize the value of this. And maybe you can tell them how they can get a hold of the report.
So what I would suggest, you see this report, you know how to get a hold of us through Game Changer, and I would really consider it. If you are struggling or just concerned about somebody you love, like a grandchild, your own daughter, your own son, just a friend, employers that have somebody that are working with them, there's so many places it can take place. Get this report, okay? This tells you your lifetime. Then you can accent it with a destiny report that is changed every year. But start. And so alexcae.moren@gmail, contact me, and hopefully you'll subscribe to Game Changer and share this with your other people so that they can subscribe, because this is all about self-discovery, and it is a game changer. 2019 is a tipping point of self-awareness to move into 2020. Thank you so much. Have a great day with this new moon, and take care.